Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Afghanistan has been on my mind naturally as the Taliban takes power in that country. And over the last several weeks, I have tried to explore the various ways and means in trying to understand this very complex regime change that is still underway. This edition of Global Print has been provoked by comments from Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla, who interestingly described the Taliban's appeals for international legitimacy as a silver lining. He said that unlike the last time around in 1996 when the Taliban had first taken power, this time it's a little different. But before I discuss Mr. Shringla's comments and look at the arguments in favor and against of the Taliban and India perhaps, and the word is perhaps, having a relationship, dear viewer, I'd like to make an appeal to you. Please do consider paying just a little bit and subscribing to the Print's free, fair, objective and unhyphenated journalism. You know that we have been bringing to you the best news videos, the best news stories over the last several months of the pandemic. So please do continue to support us. You will find in the description of this video links to subscribe both for an international as well as for domestic audience. So please do click on the join button. It's very little money, rupees 159 only. But as a subscriber, you get an array of benefits that others don't. So back to my column, Global Print. It's on Afghanistan once again. But this time around, Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla's comments describing the Taliban's appeal to international legitimacy as a silver lining. Now that in itself is quite interesting. So, dear viewer, what does this mean? So let me describe to you 6 ways in which there could be the possibility, and like I say again and again, it's the words are could be the possibility of a relationship between India and the Taliban. Now, what are these 6 arguments? The first argument is that any relationship between India and the Taliban, any possible relationship, depends on how the Taliban treat their own people. Remember that the Afghans are a very complex and a very diverse society. There are 14 ethnic groups, not just the Pashtuns and the Hazaras or the Tajiks and the Uzbeks, but smaller groups like the Kuchis. So it depends on how the Taliban treat their own people, whether they accord to them equal rights, dignity according to the Constitution of the Islamic Republic. We know that Zabihullah Mujahid, the spokesperson of the Taliban, in his first, now famous press conference said that everybody will be considered equal, women will be allowed to work, but then he adds a caveat, according to the Sharia. Now, what is the interpretation of the Sharia that the Taliban will adopt? Will it be equal rights for all, for women, for men, and for all the ethnic groups in that country? But we have seen already in the last week or so since the Taliban took power that its spokespersons may say one thing, but the reality on the ground is very, very different. And you have seen on social media several videos on how Taliban fighters have been beating up people. There are people sort of being lined up against the walls in various suburbs, not just in Kabul, but especially in provinces. So it all depends whether the Taliban keeps its word and treats its people equally. The second argument in favor of the Taliban is that the Taliban certainly helped in the evacuation of Indian nationals as well as Afghan Sikhs over the last several days since it took power. Now, Indian ambassador to Afghanistan, Rudrendra Tandon, several diplomats from the Indian embassy, as well as some journalists, including my own colleague Nainima Basu, who were evacuated last week. That evacuation and subsequent flights, both of the Indian Air Force from Kabul as well as later from Tajikistan and Dushanbe, could not have been done if the Taliban did not help. Now, the outer perimeter of Kabul airport, as we know, is held by the Taliban. The airport itself has been commandeered by US and NATO troops. But if the Taliban did not allow the convoy of the Indian ambassador and others to reach the airport, there was no way that this could have happened. So the question is the Taliban sending a message to India? It knows that India is the largest power in the region, and that if there is some sort of a working relationship between India and the new Taliban, as it purports itself to be, then things might become much easier in the weeks and months to come. The third argument is that the Taliban, as it has shown, is that it is consolidating power in Kabul. Now, Mullah Baradar, the co-founder of the Taliban, along with Mullah Omar in the early 90s, has returned to Kabul a couple of days ago from Qatar via Kandahar. This is the first time that he's been back in 20 odd years. The process of government formation is underway. We know that the Taliban has met former President Hamid Karzai, as well as the former chief of the High Council of Reconciliation, Dr. Abdullah Abdullah. These are the two big leaders, the two big Afghan leaders who have stayed back in Afghanistan, even as Ashraf Ghani and various other people have fled. So the Taliban have reached out to these people and are saying again and again that they do not need to fear in the new Afghanistan. It is also believed that representatives of Karzai and Dr. Abdullah, that their people could find place in the government even if they don't. Certainly they are not going to join the government, but their people could find place in the new Taliban government. The fourth point is that resistance to the Taliban is emerging in the Panjshir Valley. We know that as soon as the Taliban took power on the 15th of August, the former vice president who soon declared himself to be the caretaker president of Afghanistan, and I'm talking about none other than Amrullah Saleh, he left Kabul, went to the Panjshir Valley, that is his home, and with him was Ahmad Massoud, the son of Commander Massoud. Ahmad Shah Massoud is an icon in Afghanistan because in 2001, when the Taliban had taken over almost the entire country, the Panjshir Valley under Commander Massoud was still liberated and it was free. He never gave up to the Taliban. He was assassinated on the 9th of September 2001, 2 days before the September 11 attacks, but Commander Massoud never gave up. And that spirit of resistance that is still imbued in Amrullah Saleh and Ahmad Massoud. Now we will see what that happens to that resistance, because over the last couple of days, all kinds of conflicting reports are coming out. Mr. Saleh himself is saying that they are in command, that they have retaken some districts back from the Taliban, but Taliban forces are insisting that the fight is still underway, and so some territory is being taken by one group or the other. But note that that resistance is still underway in the Panjshir Valley and in Kabul, as well as in several other provinces, in Ghazni, in Kandahar. People are resisting the Taliban. On the 19th of August, which is the Independence Day of Afghanistan, people came out in the streets carrying the flag of Afghanistan, the national flag, and including women. So on the streets of Kabul, you saw various women wearing the burqa, but protesting against the Taliban. So that point must be noted, that there is a small, minor, perhaps not very effective, but we shall see what happens to that resistance. The fifth point is that some key governments have not shut down their embassies in Afghanistan. Now we know that the US is trying to exit as fast as possible. Other NATO countries, the European Union and others, have also left and trying to evacuate their nationals as quickly as they can. India has also shut down its embassy. But three key countries remain: Russia, China, and Pakistan. Now we have seen over the last few days how the Russian ambassador, Dmitry Zhirnov, has met with the Taliban representatives. In fact, in Moscow, Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has said that it's important that the world learns to live with the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground in Afghanistan is that the Taliban have taken power. But it is perhaps commendable that Russia's envoy, Zamir Kabulov, early on undertook to cement ties with Pakistan. Russia and Pakistan did not have very good relations. But a few years ago, I think that when the Russian government saw the writing on the wall, saw that the Taliban was getting stronger by the day, Mr. Kabulov reached out to the Pakistanis because he understood that the Pakistanis had leverage over the Taliban. So the Russian embassy remains open in Kabul today. Similarly, the Chinese embassy, China and Pakistan, we know, have a very close tie. In the New York Times, a Chinese former PLA colonel Trudeau, writing, says that China is willing to fill in the void that the Americans have left behind. And of course, we remember that on the 28th of July, we remember that the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met the Taliban leader Mullah Baradar in the Chinese city of Tianjin. So a relationship between China and the Taliban seems to be a good one, and there are reports that China wants to extend the Belt and Road Initiative, the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, to Afghanistan as well. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, we know that Pakistan and Taliban have had a very strong relationship for the last several years, that the Shuras in Quetta, Miran Shah as well as Peshawar continue to have Taliban representatives and fighters. And the sixth and last point that I will make in this video is that the Western world, led by the US, has already shut down key financial instruments that fund the government of Afghanistan. So if you have no money coming in, then obviously it will be difficult to pay salaries for government, and that will exacerbate the situation on the ground. So if you shut off the money tap, the US and other Western powers believe, then that automatically weakens the government in power, which is the Taliban. So if India is responding to messages from the Taliban, it must keep this in mind. On this note, dear viewer, do read my column, Global Print, on the Print's website, and I look forward to your comments on this video. Thank you so much for watching.